sesh on management styles. So management styles will range between these four types, and they are on a scale. So you'll have authoritarian on one scale, and on the other end of the scale you have laissez-faire. But when we're talking about the scale is basically how much delegation they do. So please make sure you click the card up there and understand what delegation is first. So on one side of the scale is authoritarian, and that's essentially when there is no delegation. Managers make all the decisions. Communication is top down. It might make sense in a business crisis, or it might make sense if you have unskilled or new workers and you just need to tell them what to do. You need to make the decisions on behalf of them. But it could be demotivating if this happens. If all decisions are made by the managers and there is just no decision-making power for the subordinates, could be demotivating. And that could lead to low staff retention. Now, something similar, but not the same as authoritarian, is paternalistic. And paternalistic, if you think of it on the scale, is just a watered down version of authoritarian or autocratic management. And that's essentially that managers consult employees before making decisions. And the idea is they would consult the employees, consult the subordinates, then they would make a decision, and then they would explain their decision to their subordinates, and then they would try and persuade them that it is the best way, the optimal way. Now, this might make sense to employees in the sense that it makes them feel more involved because they've been consulted before they've essentially been told what is going to happen. So therefore, it possibly could increase motivation in comparison to an authoritarian management style. However, in the long term, it could cause some issues because essentially it is just a watered down version of authoritarian management style, so it could lead to those same issues of demotivation if really you kind of see in the long term what's happening here is that we're being consulted, but really we don't have a say in the decision, and you might see through that in the long term. Now, the next type of management style is democratic, and democratic is when managers give employees greater involvement in the decision making, so it's further along that scale. Essentially, this is when delegation begins. Delegation, decision making begins. Advantages of this, it might increase motivation, so basically it's just the pros of delegation. It might increase motivation in staff because they feel they've been given some responsibility in the decision making and it empowers them. And also it might free up the managers to make the tougher decisions. So they can make the easier decisions, they could delegate that down to subordinates, but the tougher decisions, the more decisions that require skill and experience could be those that the manager will make. However, negatives of democratic could possibly slow down the decision-making process depending on who the decisions have been delegated to. And the big question is, are the employees capable of making these decisions? Because if they're not, that's a problem for democratic management styles. And the final and the end of the scale is laissez-faire, the absolute opposite of authoritarian. And laissez-faire is when managers have no input in decision making, absolutely no input in decision making in the most extreme. So therefore there was full delegation to subordinates. It might make sense if the employees are they're very skilled, highly skilled, and they are competent. And also you need to make sure that when they're making all these decisions that they have to be aligned with incentives. They need to be aligned on the same goals of management. So it might make sense that you would put a profit sharing initiative in place so you know you are delegating the decisions down to someone that's perhaps more skilled in that particular area, but they are aligned in the objectives of the business, which could, for example, be profit maximisation. The negatives of laissez-faire is that it's ineffective if it's just basically a way out for the managers from making decisions and they're laissez-faire and going, you know, you make that decision on behalf of me. That's dangerous to the prosperity and future of the business. So I hope that helps with the management styles, and I'll see you at the next sesh.